No one can fix this, the manager scoffed. But then, the janitor said one sentence that made the CEO cancel the entire plan. And every suit in that room? Silent. The mug trembled in her hand. Kendra balanced it carefully as she walked down the pristine corridor of Garrison and Lane Holdings. The mug was chipped, her hands were dry from bleach, and her sneakers squeaked with every step. On that Thursday morning, it wasn't the coffee that was important. It was what sat beneath it. A folded spreadsheet, one she wasn't supposed to see. She'd found it near the shred bin at 6:02 a.m. Someone had missed, or maybe changed their mind too late. Either way, the edge of the page stuck out from a pile of crumpled HR memos. She only saw it because she always looked, because janitors always notice what others throw away. She hadn't meant to read it, but once her eyes caught the words "Total Projected Layoffs, Hound 200, Phase 1, something in her stomach turned. And now she was walking, carefully, because if she spilled this coffee, she'd have no excuse to enter the executive floor again. Kendra walked past a row of glass offices where men in slim-cut suits adjusted their Apple Watches and women in silk heels typed like they were born for conference calls. And there she was, black, 39, holding a coffee mug from Dollar Tree and a piece of paper that didn't belong to her. As she passed the conference room, she heard it. "No one can fix this, not even legal," said a voice inside. It was Joseph Stanmore, VP of Operations, the same man who'd asked her last week not to use the executive restroom because it gave the wrong impression. She paused just a second too long. Her reflection, tired eyes, janitor badge, curls pulled back, stared back from the glass. "Then we bury it," another voice said. "We have 3 days before the board finds out." She moved on. She was invisible, that was the rule. Clean, listen, disappear. The break room for cleaning staff was 3 floors down and smelled like mop water and vending machine tuna. Kendra sat there, mug still full, paper still folded in her back pocket, staring at a cracked tile that always reminded her of a lightning bolt. She didn't belong upstairs, that was clear. Last month, she offered a tray of donuts to the finance team after they forgot hers in the kitchenette. They said, "You didn't have to, really," but no one took one. 2 weeks ago, she complimented a manager's shoes. He didn't respond. He just looked at her badge, then at his watch. 3 days ago, someone left a wet tissue on the elevator button. On purpose. Kendra knew because she heard them laugh. This place wasn't just cold. It was designed to make her feel temporary. And yet, she knew more about the company than anyone thought. She knew which execs came in early, only 2. Which ones flushed, 1. Which ones whispered names they shouldn't in the halls. She saw the tears in the break room. She saw the smirks after redundancy reviews. And now she had a single page that said layoffs were coming, disproportionately to non-essential divisions. She knew what that meant. The interns with student debt, the black women in admin, the Spanish-speaking security team, people who were already being erased by polite grammar and sanitized charts. She pulled out her phone. Not to take a photo, no, just to text her son. "Home at noon. Don't skip." He didn't answer. Upstairs, they were prepping for the quarterly results presentation. All hands on deck, suits sweating, lanyards tightening. Kendra returned to the floor to wipe fingerprints from door handles like they weren't planning to fire the hands that left them. As she entered the executive hallway, Joseph spotted her. "Hey," he said, frowning, "you're not assigned to this floor today." "I was covering. One of the team called out." "You can go back down now. We'll handle things from here." Just like that. No coffee offered. No thanks. No eye contact. She turned. But as she did, the mug slipped. It didn't shatter, but the coffee splashed across the tile. And there, in the brown streaks, ink bled through her back pocket. The paper was soaked, the numbers smeared, and Joseph's eyes narrowed. "You dropped something." Kendra bent down, wiped it quickly, and stood without a word. Her hands shook, but her spine didn't, because she'd seen enough, and she wasn't done yet. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how this unfolds. Kendra didn't sleep that night. She laid in bed listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the soft rhythm of her son's video game controller tapping in the other room. Cairo was 15, sharp, funny, a little too good at mimicking people. But that night he was quiet. Something was off. She thought about telling him, about the paper, about the voices in the boardroom, about how the same people who smiled during diversity week were prepping to clean house. But what would that do? So instead, she sat at the table past midnight with a pad of sticky notes. One by one, she wrote down every name she remembered from the spreadsheet. Not just names, roles, notes, floor numbers, and next to each, a tiny check mark, an X, or a question mark. She was mapping a system she wasn't even supposed to be part of. And then she left one final note. If this disappears, someone's watching. She tucked it into the janitor closet behind the HVAC logbook under an old dust mask, her kind of safety net. The next morning, she woke early, wrapped her curls in a scarf, and put on her company-issued polo. The bleach stain near her ribcage was barely noticeable if she kept her arm down. She grabbed Cairo's breakfast bar and headed out. At 7:12 a.m., she clocked in and walked past the same front desk security who never used her name. That day, though, he barely looked up from his phone. Probably didn't see her slip the folded, coffee-stained sheet into her pocket again. She wasn't going to let it go. But what could she do? She wasn't a whistleblower. She wasn't even salaried. Her entire career depended on staying quiet, on not being a problem. One complaint and she'd be labeled difficult, the kiss of death for black women in service roles. Still, she knew what she'd heard, and she knew one thing more dangerous than speaking up. Pretending you didn't hear. That afternoon, Cairo showed up early to meet her. She wasn't expecting him, especially not outside the building, leaning against the bike rack like he had a plan. "Ma," he said, handing her a sandwich. "You didn't eat again." "I'm good. Why you out of school?" He shrugged. "Math teacher out sick. Free period." She didn't press. He followed her inside. Wasn't the first time he'd done homework in the staff break room, but that day she let him follow her upstairs. She wasn't supposed to, but Cairo was quiet, observant. She told herself he just needed to see. So when they walked past the glass meeting room and heard Stanmore's voice again, she paused. "The interns? Gone. Diversity hires? First wave. We don't have room for sentiment." She winced. Cairo caught her hand. "Don't stop," he said. It was such a small sentence, but her chest squeezed. They turned the corner. She handed him her keycard, told him not to touch anything, just listen, just learn. Because there were some things you don't get taught in school, like how silence protects power. Back downstairs, they sat in the storage closet pretending to label bins. Cairo tapped a pen against his lip. "That guy upstairs, he said diversity hires. What does that even mean?" Kendra looked at him, looked through him. "It means people like me, like you. People they can fire without looking bad." Cairo blinked. "That legal?" Kendra shook her head. "It's corporate." 2 days later, the preview email went out. Internal, confidential. But Kendra had eyes. She saw the draft on a desk while she cleaned. "We regret to announce economic restructuring, strategic realignment, impacted roles include..." She didn't need to read more. That night, she brought home the paper again. Cairo stared at it. "Why don't you just give it to somebody?" he asked. "They won't listen." "Then say something they can't ignore." She didn't ask what that meant. She just stared at her hands, calloused, cracked, tired, and remembered the manager's voice. "No one can fix this." Maybe they couldn't, but someone could say it. This is the turning point. What happens next doesn't just surprise, it shakes the whole room. Stay and see how it unfolds. The morning of the quarterly all-hands meeting, Kendra woke up before her alarm. Her palms were damp, her mouth dry. The dreams she'd had? All flashes. Of elevators that never opened. Of voices without faces. Of rooms where her badge wouldn't work. She pulled her hair back tight, buttoned her polo. No mascara, no earrings. Just invisibility. Just clean lines and silence. The way they liked her. But today wasn't going to be silent. Cairo walked 2 steps behind her into the building. He wore his school hoodie. It was too warm for it, but he said he liked how the hood felt. Kendra didn't argue. That morning, she didn't argue anything. Inside, the building was buzzing. People in blazers clicking past with coffee cups and agenda printouts. The kind of people who forget janitors exist unless they spill something. Kendra led Cairo to the 10th floor. No one noticed them. The conference room door stood wide open. Inside, rows of chairs, projector humming, a massive spreadsheet up on screen. Names, budgets, targets. A woman in a navy suit whispered to someone, "Cut 22%, no matter what it takes." Stanmore stood by the screen, tapping his ring against the table. He looked bored. Power always does. They stood quietly by the back. Cairo held a paper folder in both hands like a student in trouble. No one asked who he was. No one asked why he was here. The CEO stepped to the front. Young, clean haircut, polished teeth, the kind of person who could say synergy without laughing. He opened his mouth, but before a word came out, Cairo raised his hand. The room paused. Stanmore turned. "I'm sorry, this is a closed..." "I'm just the janitor's kid," Cairo said, stepping forward. "But I listened." Silence. Cairo unfolded the sheet. The original spreadsheet. Everyone's names. The real plan. The draft that wasn't supposed to exist. "I heard what you said," he continued. "That some people don't matter. That some names are easier to erase." Eyes turned toward Kendra. She didn't move. Cairo wasn't shaking. His voice didn't crack. He just looked straight ahead like he'd practiced in the mirror. Maybe he had. "You called it streamlining," he said. "But I have a name too." Stanmore tried to speak, but the CEO raised his hand. "What's your name?" he asked. "Cairo." "Cairo," the CEO repeated. Then he looked at Kendra. "You work here?" She nodded once. Then the CEO walked to the front. He didn't yell, he didn't gesture. He just took the flash drive from Stanmore's hand and snapped it in two. The room gasped. "This meeting's over," he said. "Effective immediately." No one moved. Cairo turned and walked toward his mother. Kendra put a hand on his shoulder. They walked out together, passing every suit and badge like ghosts returning to life. Outside, Kendra leaned against the wall and finally let out the breath she'd been holding for weeks. Cairo pulled his hoodie tighter. "What now?" he asked. Kendra smiled. Not wide, just enough. Just tired enough. "Now," she said, "they remember who cleans the floor they stand on." Thought that was powerful? There's another story you need to see. It starts with a courier, just doing his job, and ends with him face to face with his childhood best friend, who's now the CEO.